Keith Brown, and this is a public policy podcast.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
What is public policy? Public policy means many different things, from laws to regulations to all deliberate acts of government aimed to promote the common good. This could be state government, local government, city government, or federal government. Public policy also may be what government opts not to do, like a decision not to fund a program or commit government resources. These are also forms of public policy, even if they never show up in the form of a law. Public policy may include less formal examples of government action, such as when a president delivers a speech or issues a warning. In these cases, while no law has been passed, the president or a mayor or a governor acting on behalf of the government has used the power of the office to change behavior. So public policy is what government deliberately does and also opts not to do, including formal and informal acts of power. Let's think of a couple of examples. First, public policy is a dramatic commitment of government action, such as declaring war. Here is President Franklin Roosevelt reacting to Pearl Harbor attack and committing the country to war with Japan.
Members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make it very certain that this form of treachery shall never again endanger us.
FDR was making public policy in this speech. But government policy abroad is not always focused on war. United States policy in the 1950s focused on rebuilding Europe after the war. Listen to George Marshall describe what became known as the Marshall Plan.
The truth of the matter is that Europe's requirements for the next 3 or 4 years of foreign food and other essential products, principally from America, are so much greater than her present ability to pay that she must have substantial additional help or face economic, social, and political deterioration of a very grave character. The remedy seems to lie in breaking the vicious circle and restoring the confidence of the people of Europe in the economic future of their own countries and of Europe as a whole. The manufacturer and the farmer throughout wide areas must be able and willing to exchange their products for currencies, the continuing value of which is not open to question. Aside from the demoralizing effect on the world at large, and the possibilities of disturbances arising as a result of the desperation of the people concerned, the consequences to the economy of the United States should be apparent to all. It is logical that the United States should do whatever it is able to do to assist in the return of normal economic health in the world, without which there can be no political stability and no assured peace. Our policy is directed not against any country or doctrine, but against hunger, poverty, desperation, and chaos.
The Marshall Plan has been viewed as one of the most ambitious and successful commitments of public policy in U.S. history. But bold public policy action has not always been restricted to the international realm. At home, public policy makers have taken on major challenges of the past with equally bold action. Take the Great Society that President Lyndon Johnson envisioned in the 1960s. Here is Johnson explaining his vision for a great society where the government would take action to address poverty and inequality in a way never dreamed of in the past.
For in your time, we have the opportunity to move not only toward the rich society and the powerful society, but upward to the great society. The great society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice, to which we're totally committed in our time. But that is just the beginning. The great society is a place where every child can find knowledge to enrich his mind and to enlarge his talents. It is a place where leisure is a welcome chance to build and reflect, not a feared cause of boredom and restlessness. It is a place where the city of man serves not only the needs of the body and the demands of commerce, but the desire for beauty and the hunger for community. It is a place where man can renew contact with nature. It is a place which honors creation for its own sake and for what it adds to the understanding of the race. It is a place where men are more concerned with the quality of their goals than the quantity of their goods. But most of all, the great society is not a safe harbor, a resting place, a final objective, a finished work. It is a challenge constantly renewed, beckoning us toward a destiny where the meaning of our lives matches the marvelous products of our labor.
Government policy, especially the programs associated with the Great Society, often involve spending money, what we call public expenditures. Public expenditures pay for entitlement programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, as well as federal agencies like the Department of Defense and Department of Agriculture. Public policy is almost always about spending or not spending money in some way. Money matters a lot. As a result, public expenditures require that the government has already made public policy to raise money. Taxes and fees represent another type of policy. Here's Ronald Reagan talking about just this issue in the 1960s.
But I have an uncomfortable feeling that this prosperity isn't something on which we can base our hopes for the future. No nation in history has ever survived a tax burden that reached a third of its national income. Today, 37 cents out of every dollar earned in this country is the tax collector's share. And yet our government continues to spend $17 million a day more than the government takes in. We haven't balanced our budget 28 out of the last 34 years. We've raised our debt limit 3 times in the last 12 months. And now our national debt is 1.5 times bigger than all the combined debts of all the nations of the world. We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce. Foreign dollar claims are $27.3 billion.
Reagan was expressing a view that government tax policy was ineffective and potentially harmful. He was advocating for a reduction in taxes, a public policy change, as well as changes in government to reduce the overall size of government, in essence, a major public policy change that he thought was important. It took him another 10 to 15 years to actually enact these changes because he wasn't yet elected president. Public policy may also be expressed through decisions to support organizations that will then act on behalf of the good, of the public good. Later, public policy change may overturn that support, and the organization will no longer be in a position to act in the public good. Here's Congressman Paul Ryan speaking about his public policy to defund a public health organization called Planned Parenthood. He is using the legislative budget process, public policy decisions about spending federal funds, to restrict abortion by defunding Planned Parenthood.
First of all, we did put the riders on Planned Parenthood to prevent them from having any money going toward abortion like we have in the past. And we maintained all of our Hyde Amendment protections for pro-life. So we maintained our pro-life riders. But what we realized was that the Planned Parenthood defunding bill was going to get filibustered in the Senate. So we weren't even going to get past the U.S. Senate with a Planned Parenthood bill in the omnibus. So we used the one tool we could use to prevent a filibuster and advance this bill, which was what we call reconciliation. So we have Planned Parenthood defunded in the reconciliation bill. You can use this bill once a year, and we used it for this. It is now passed the Senate, so that we were able to avoid a filibuster. And so that bill is coming back to the House, and so the first thing we do next year, under regular order, is we will pass the budget reconciliation bill, which gets us our Planned Parenthood defunding bill to the president's desk.
So public policy sometimes involves the government acting in a positive sense through spending money or creating programs, but also in a negative sense, the decision to not do something or to defund or end a program. There are also other sorts of examples of public policy, including economic incentives to encourage people to act, like farm subsidies or home ownership incentives, regulations on what companies can and cannot do, including public policies to protect the environment and limit pollution, or regulations on what individuals can and cannot do, such as laws that prevent fraud and corruption. Public policies are all around us. They shape our lives, affect our decisions, support our needs, and we hope promote the common good.